So I was sitting here thinking to myself, like, I hate the fact that I don't post as much as I once did, which was a very brief time, but hey, like, I just want to post more. I feel like I want to be more involved with my audience, and I feel like this is gonna help me do it. So I don't know how long this is gonna last, but I would like to try out just posting videos that are talking about up to 5 episodes at a time. I'm hoping that by doing that, it'll help the videos come out faster. I don't know if that'll actually work. I am trying to navigate working, being self-employed, and also having ADHD, which I bring up because I feel like people don't really understand just how much ADHD can impact your work life. Anywho, let's talk about episodes 1 through 5 of season 3 of Gilmore Girls. Loves TV. Yes, I made a theme song so that I can talk about all my favorite shows. Oh yeah. And this is just your disclaimer that this is not me talking about any of the actors themselves, but more so their characters. Please do not attack me in the comments. Everyone is entitled to their own opinion, even those who disagree with me. But let's keep it friendly. All right, let's get started with the show. So it's been a while. When we last left off, Suki and Jackson got married, Jess kissed Rory at Suki and Jackson's wedding, Christopher told Lorelai that his girlfriend is pregnant, and Luke still isn't talking to Lorelai because of the accident. In episode 1, Lorelai has to tell Emily and Richard about her and Christopher breaking up. If you haven't already seen it, I dropped a brand new addition to my Emily Gilmore Manipulation series. If you want to check it out, here's the link up there in the corner. Rory prepares to come home from her Washington trip. Can we talk about pregnancy dreams? Or just dreams in general where like you're living the life that you think it's, probably meant for you or whatever, all to wake up and realize that it doesn't exist. Soul crushing. Paris gets asked out by Jamie. One thing about Kirk, he's always trying to get to the bag. Notice how Rory doesn't say I love you to Dean. Then as she talks to Paris about the ideal person, but she's describing Jess. By the way, for my fellow Gen Zers, a Zagat is like Yelp, but for restaurants. It basically let people know how other people rated a restaurant. I love childish humor, so I love the airport scene. Life's just too short not to be silly. Once again, we get Lorelai telling Rory not to pick sides just because she's mad at Christopher, but sure, she's a bad mom. How awful of her, oh my god. That was sarcasm. I love the Lazy Hazy Crazy Days of Summer song. I just kept singing it. What was Rory's plan for when she came back? Like, I understand that there's a lot of people who feel like Jess should have waited, but Jess is a part of like the realism side of the show. Jess isn't a character like Miss Patty or Babette. Like, he brings a darker, more realistic side to the show. And based off of that, I expect him to react to things more realistically. So in reality, he's a human being and it's irrational to think that he was just supposed to sit around and wait. Lorelai was right. It was the wrong time to have the conversation, but she was right. What was the alternative? She encouraged them and people get another reason to call Lorelai a bad mom? Again, the timing was wrong, but the message was right. In my season 3 Emily Gilmore Manipulation video, I mentioned how Lorelai came back and apologized. I was referencing to this episode where she apologizes to Rory. Lorelai admits to Rory that she was wrong to go about it the way that she did, something I don't think we've ever seen Emily do for Lorelai. Emily and a lot of parents are so afraid to admit that they're wrong to their kids because they feel like it makes them seem weak or flighty, but in actuality, especially in my experiences growing up, the adults that actually apologize to me are the adults that I still trust and respect to this day. Dean's character at this point has become like a gnat. I think that's literally the whole point. They're trying to shove him out so they can make room for Jess. We gotta find him annoying. We gotta be irritated by his presence every time he waltzes on the screen. I like how Luke and Lorelai make up. It makes me wonder if that kind of mimics how they actually started coming to Luke's. I feel so bad for Lorelai because she's finally ready for a long-term love and she can't have it. In episode 2, Rory starts senior year. Kirk asks Lorelai out and a special guest comes to dinner. Luke was cracking me up in the beginning. I love how Luke serves the food but constantly tries to get Lorelai to eat better. Like, it's just so funny. Rory's in student government as vice president. Francie is back and trying to manipulate Rory, and if you pay attention, Rory takes a page out of Emily's book and manipulates Paris. I agree with Suki. Cooking is an art and pasta is beginner's food. Literally, we have to talk about the Christopher scene. Everything that Lorelai said was spot on. I would have reacted the same way. Like, who does he think he is? He can't just barge into their dinner. He knows that she's gonna be there and he's trying to force her to talk to him instead of just giving her space, and he tries to do the same thing with Rory. Rory saying go be someone else's dad, man, that hit hard. She's disappointed. I love how Lorelai respects Rory's boundaries and protects her. Christopher wanted to hammer on Rory and force her to forgive him, but she's just not there yet. Someone mentioned in my last video that Lorelai didn't take this opportunity to point out to Emily that that's why she didn't want Christopher involved, or her being involved with Christopher. But like I said in my comment, people love to villainize Lorelai for everything, even though throughout this whole episode, Lorelai is trying to push her feelings aside for everyone else. She could have been petty and told Rory that by talking to Chris that she would have been hurt. She didn't have to go outside and tell Chris after their fight to give it time and give him hope. She does all these things because she cares about her child. How do people not see that? And to clear it up for some people who really do not understand why Rory is so angry about the situation, Rory is angry because she feels like she's always the one that defends her dad and always tries to like think the best of him. And while him getting Sherry pregnant was not really in his control, obviously, this is just another time where she got her hopes up and thought that he was really going to stick around and they were going to be a family, and he didn't. He went years without actively being in her life. That's literally what they explain in season 1. People do not talk about how much Rory struggled being the child of a father that was not present. Nothing will truly mend the heartbreak that she has received time and time again from her father not being present. People got to understand that to Rory, it's like, okay, so you basically can choose to be in this other family and to start a whole new family, but you can't even nurture the one that you already had. This new child is worth staying for, but I'm not. That's what gets translated here. Even if that's not the intent, even if that's not how he feels and he feels like he's just doing the right thing, and as Richard says, as he just wants to, do the right thing by trying to do what we tried to do with Lorelai. Like Lorelai said, they were too young to get married. Chris just gives me those vibes that like he's one of those guys where he feels like if he can't be with the baby's mother or like his ex-girlfriend, whatever, who has a baby with him, then he doesn't need to be around, period. Like, or like he can just move on with his life and like do other things and act as though he doesn't even have a whole child. Like, that's the vibes that I get. And a lot of women who have kids, they understand that does happen a lot. Like, a lot of men feel like, well, if I can't be with you, then what am I gonna stick around for? But like, now you're seeing how that's not working in your favor, Chris. Even though they made a lot of jokes, I do appreciate how nicely Lorelai told Kirk no. Let's talk about the end. Jess is not wrong. Like, she didn't even call after or anything. He's already made it clear that he wants her. I don't know what the holdup is. 2 months? 2 months? I get it that she was writing a letter, but still, like, she never sent it, and he doesn't know that the letter even existed. He doesn't even know that she was trying to write a letter. And all she wrote was, "Dear Jess." I mean, it's not like she was like writing a poem. Here we are again with that limited perspective. When she said that she was still with Dean, his feelings were hurt. That's why he cut the conversation short after that. I think he initiated the conversation to try and see if she did want to be with him. He keeps trying to show that he wants to be with her, and she keeps missing it because he's not doing it in the traditional way. Some people just speak with their actions and not their words, and I feel like Jess is one of those people. In episode 3, Rory gets her college applications and Lane is looking for bandmates. Lorelai mentions SpongeBob and Johnny Bravo in this episode, and I gotta say, I was excited to hear it. I cannot stand pretentious stuff. I'm just talking about like with this school thing, because everybody knows the qualifications to get in. Like, how much variety can you expect from applicants? Things like, are you smart? Do you have ambition? That should be the main focus. I love Rory and Lorelai's banter. I feel so bad for the people who don't understand it and find it annoying. Paris calling Rory freaking out was hilarious. Taylor wants to open an ice cream shop, which, by the way, I would actually go there. By the way, for my fellow Gen Zers, Star 69 was essentially like a way that people could track like who called them originally, to my understanding, because they didn't have caller ID. Lorelai has the best voicemails. Like, I would love to make a compilation of all her voicemails because I find them funny every single time. And this is the episode where Dave shows up. In episode 4, the people who actually go and watch the episodes and then come here to watch the videos, y'all had to know I was gonna have a lot to say about this. The intro was cracking me up. Lorelai is invited to speak at Rory's old school about her success. Rory helps Lane dye her hair, and Lane is trying to find out how she can keep practicing for her band with her mom's rules. So first, before we get into the big thing, I feel so bad for Lane because I've totally been there. Trying to practice how you'll get permission to do social activities and then the anxiety that comes with it, it truly breaks my heart for her because all that she wants to do is drum in a band. It's not like she wants to go out and party. I understand that Mrs. Kim just wants to protect her, but even with understanding both sides, it's still hard to watch. Her whole rant, I was just watching and agreeing. I wish I could just give Lane a hug. The minute she heard her mom coming, I could see the guilt wash over her, and it's like she didn't even do anything that was really like crazy, you know? She was acting like she just saw a positive pregnancy test. Like, all she did was dye her hair purple. Michelle was trying to eat Lorelai up at the end. Lorelai doing Louis Armstrong had me on the floor. And then her little cough at the end. I don't really understand the hate for Jess's new girlfriend. She literally didn't do anything. Like, yes, when Rory came back, she was on the phone, and that part was a little rude, but let's be honest here. Rory only has beef with her because she's with Jess, and she can't muster up the courage to leave Dean so that she can be with him. It makes absolutely no sense. The joke about how Ice is fascinating was actually hilarious, but it just doesn't really really make a lot of sense. Like, her being mad at the girl doesn't make a lot of sense. It's just misplaced anger. Once again, Rory is being told what a great relationship she has, and she knows that she's in love with Jess, which is literally her whole issue. Everyone keeps telling her what a great boyfriend she has, and she likes that everyone likes him, but not Dean himself. She can't leave him because if she does, she'll be with somebody that nobody likes. And she's so used to being liked that the idea of being with someone who could threaten that safety net frightens her. So here's the rant that I have. The talk at Rory's school and those moms getting mad at Lorelai as though she didn't literally try to keep changing the subject is wild. That's how the fandom treats Lorelai too. They were teenagers asking questions. You're preaching to our daughters that it's okay to get pregnant at 16? When did she say that? I'll wait. Look, people can feel how they want to feel, but not talking about teen pregnancy when the potential is right in their faces isn't going to keep them from getting pregnant. Not educating them on it isn't going to stop it. What it will do is allow people who don't know what they're talking about to come in and misinform them. I agree with what Lorelai said about not glossing over things because it doesn't help the situation at all. Debbie was acting like she wasn't in the room, literally right there watching them continuously ask her questions about her pregnancy. I want to be really clear about what I'm finna say. Jess was wrong. How he talked to Luke was really wrong. But even with knowing that he was wrong, I can still see what he was trying to say. It made me feel bad for Jess because he was talking about Rory when he said that the girls that he likes don't really give a about him. But he was wrong for lashing out at Luke about him liking Lorelai and not telling her. But then without the disrespectful parts, what I heard was he's observed Luke pine for Lorelai for all this time. So he feels like him waiting and pining for Rory while she dates someone else would be just like what Luke does. He can see that Luke is not any closer to being with Lorelai as a result of him waiting for her. So he doesn't want to do the same. Again, there was a much more respectful way to go about it. So I understand how this situation got added to the list of why people don't like Jess, but the idea of what he was trying to say does make sense. In episode 5, it's amazing to see just how far we've come where breastfeeding is more normalized. My personal opinion, I feel like people over-sexualize boobs way too much. Michelle was cracking me up. Emily invites Lorelai to an auction and Lorelai is asked to help house sit. What Richard was talking about with the flavorless pork, that was wild. What are you talking about? Flavorless pork? That sounds so disgusting. Part of what makes me feel like Jess actually does care about Rory is that he's just terrible at showing it sometimes, like with his words. But in that scene where he helps her without giving it a second thought, and instead of being the hero, he turns the sprinkler back on so that Dean can feel like he saved her. He literally has put himself and his feelings aside. And see, he's so supportive of her following her dreams instead of thinking about how it impacts himself. Like who? Like Dean. I discussed more of this episode in my Emily Gilmore manipulation video if you want to hear more about what I thought about Emily and all that stuff that was going on. I want to say thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for coming back. If this is your first time here, don't forget to subscribe. You can also follow me on Instagram at Kira the Goddess. I really don't post a lot, but if you want to follow me, feel free. I don't know how long I'll be doing this whole like episode cluster thing that I'm doing, but I'll do it as long as it works. Let me know what you guys think about that, and I'll see you guys in the next one.